My name is Dominique McShane, and I currently serve as Assistant Director for Marketing and Communication in Spiritual Life. And today I just want to share a little bit about our global missions and opportunities to serve locally, both in Waco and across the states. So feel free to interject or raise your hand if you have any questions throughout our time today. Ideally, this is an opportunity for us to share kind of what we do, and also to give an opportunity for you all to ask any questions that you all may have about our programs, processes, deadlines, and so forth. Well, again, thank you all so much for coming to this session, and we're just going to be talking about a little bit how we can love local and go global as we think about the Baylor experience from a service and leadership standpoint. So with that in mind, Missions of Public Life, our idea and our goal is to help create opportunities for you all to understand human connection. So we have a variety of opportunities for you all to be connected, but to also serve both locally and globally. So if you have not already heard the Baylor mission statement, you will hear it consistently, and part of that mission is to prepare you all to be worldwide leaders and servants. And when we think about that, preparing you all for worldwide leadership and service, we have to give you all an opportunity and a platform to practice that. So with that in mind, each of our programs and everything that we do centers around human connection as we think about getting to know people and loving our neighbors well. So whether that be on a global mission trip or whether that's serving locally and working with partners in the Waco community, we focus on understanding human connection and understanding the diverse experiences of people, whether that be globally or domestically. That learning and self-discovery piece, so empowering each of you all to discover your calling. And calling is another thing that you would hear often when we talk about your Baylor experience. Because we want you all not only to go out and serve, but how do we figure out and find this intersection of our faith and how that integrates with the work that we are also going to be doing in our careers. So for you all, we want you all to have that great Baylor education and understanding when it comes from an academic standpoint, but also to have some character and to have some conviction as far as an understanding of your calling. So we hope that by engaging in these programs and engaging and connecting with faculty and so forth, you all will have an opportunity to develop all of those aspects of yourselves as individuals. A healthy worldview and understanding that our world is not just our world and our community, our church, our university in Texas and so forth, but we are a small piece of a very large, diverse world. So we want to expose you all to the diverse cultures, religions, perspectives, and values of folks all across the world. And that's important for us. And lastly, servant leadership. So we understand that it's one thing to lead, but we cannot lead if we're not willing to serve. So thinking about that intersection and creating opportunities for you all to practice those aspects as well. Just thinking about what is our role to contribute into the world. And that's, at the end of the day, how we want to create opportunities for you all to love your neighbors. So again, one of those common themes that you will hear throughout our presentation and just throughout your experience at Baylor is loving your neighbor. And that's how we want to highlight that. So as far as understanding things, we have quite a few programs and opportunities, but to try to make it simple, we try to categorize things for you all. You consider go global and love local. We have global opportunities, whether that be international mission trips, and that also does include some of our domestic trips, so just outside of the state of Texas. Internships and fellowships, working specifically with faculty on a particular project. Again, that's a discipline-specific emphasis, so we want you all to create opportunities to not only meet a need in the world and the community, but if we can find opportunities for you to also develop a relationship with faculty and leverage what you're learning in the classroom to advance that as well, that's like the perfect sweet spot. And then each of our mission trips are faculty-led, so you do get the opportunity to engage and directly kind of build a connection with a faculty member, which we find to be very important, just as far as your Baylor experience, but as far as also applying and learning from the calling standpoint. So we want you all to have some of those practical experiences. As far as loving local, we have some impact service days. So those are our collective service days where we want to bring together all of the Baylors across the Baylor community to come together and serve our local community in one big outing. So we have a couple of events where that takes place. First Step Service is one of our first service opportunities for you all to join. So once you all get on campus and you want to get involved and engaged, that can be your first step, is getting involved in the First Step Service project, stepping out, MLK Day of Service, and then we also have opportunities to serve throughout the year on some of those impact service days. So this is one example of what those impact service days are, and our urban mission teams, which we'll be talking about today, which are opportunities for consistent service throughout the semester or the year, where you serve on a weekly basis, 1 to 2 times a week with a particular team, and you can work with Waco nonprofits or organizations that partner with us, and that can be around everything from education and tutoring to elderly and sick care to sustainability and a few other projects as well. So we'll be going through the full gamut of what all of those programs are when it comes to urban mission teams and how you can get involved and connected. Sounds good? All right, we also create opportunities on campus when it comes to connecting and loving our neighbors and loving locally, such as neighbor nights. So you'll see them and you'll see promo throughout the year for neighbor nights in the BUV Spiritual Life Center. And those are just opportunities for us to connect over food and share a meal, and also get to know one another and get to hear stories. So when we talk about building connection and building relationships, that's just one space to where you can actually create some of those relationships and bonds throughout the year. So the purpose of Global Mission is to shape Baylor's faithful engagement with Waco and the world as we create intentional opportunities to integrate faith, learning, and service within a broad Christian worldview, and our hope is to make a better world together. And points of emphasis for you all is, again, that faith, learning, and service. So when we think about integrating those aspects into your experience, that's something that we're looking to provide. How do we understand our faith, develop our faith, and understand how that relates to us in regard to service and our learning and applying what you're learning in the classroom. So where will you go? Pre-COVID times, we have over 31 international teams, 6 domestic teams, 18 countries, and over 20 local partners that we also work with as far as local service opportunities. Fortunately, we are currently in the process as far as reviewing applications for our next year of teams, so we'll be announcing that in July. As we review those and get those announced, so before you all get to campus, you will be able to see exactly what teams you can join if you were interested in joining a team. With that in mind, we think about our guiding principles in regards to all of our trips and all of our programs, whether it be global or local. One aspect is team-based, so we find value in being a part of the team, contributing to a team, and that's also some leadership opportunities as well, for you to also lead a team and serve in a student leadership capacity. In one aspect, that builds relationships and just camaraderie. And also, we want to prepare you all both mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for the work that you're going to be doing. So we don't want to necessarily be just this one-time event or experience, but we really want to dive a bit deeper. And part of that comes with developing relationships. And also working with partners, both our global partners and our local partners. So when we think about partners, we also understand that we may not necessarily know what is best for particular communities and populations in which we're going to be serving. So that's why it's important for us to find and work with global partners that are connected on the ground and that have a full knowledge and understanding of the needs, challenges, opportunities, and so forth when it comes to serving particular populations. And that's helpful for us when it comes to, one, being able to walk alongside and be a partner, and just building those relationships in the most impactful way, and thinking about sustainability. And that leads me to long-term commitment. So we think about the work that we do and why we ask for a significant commitment both on the local side and the global side. When we come in, we want to be able to add support and serve as a resource, and also be there to see the development and see those outcomes come to fruition whenever we go on a project. So being able to commit to that, and even when it comes from a global mission perspective, our global mission teams travel for 1 to 3 weeks. So that's the typical time frame. And then we'll share some details as far as when that typically happens. But of that 1 to 3 weeks, there are also many months of planning that happen before that. So everything from the application process to the fundraising process to the team development process to preparing your minds, preparing your project for what you all will be doing on site and on the ground. So again, it's still a significant time commitment. This one's specific, so again, we talked about those teams, and we'll be sharing some experiences from students, both from the engineering school and also from our pre-med students, about how you can integrate some of those specific experiences based off your major. And that's some of the value. So not necessarily just thinking about, oh, okay, I want to serve, but also thinking about, for myself, having the opportunity to leverage marketing communication pieces, which I find value in. But when I have an opportunity to do that, and do that in the sense that my work is not just doing marketing communication, but it's also creating opportunities to connect students with unique experiences that's going to develop them as individuals, and that also meets the needs of people across the world. So for me, that's a unique opportunity to just develop my calling and walk in my calling and purpose as well. Reciprocity, when we think about reciprocity, we want you all to think about not only what we give, but also what we receive. Because there is a very unique experience that each of our students typically tell us whenever they come back, like after they engage in any of our programs and service initiatives. And that is that they felt something that they hadn't necessarily felt in their prior experiences. So with that in mind, we want to create those opportunities to put you in places and scenarios that we cannot necessarily replicate on campus. You have to go out and integrate into the community. You have to go out and explore the world to understand and see these things for yourselves. And that's why we pride ourselves in creating these opportunities. And lastly, reflection and integration. So after you go and you experience these great things, what do you do with it? And how do you integrate that into who you are as an individual? And how do you apply that to the learning that you're learning in the classroom, from the concepts that you're learning in the classroom? So ultimately, we want you to discover something. So we want you all to discover something about yourself, about your faith, about your professional career, about what you want to do with your life or the impact that you want to make on the world. We want to create opportunities for, at the end of the day, we want you all to discover something. So when we say specifically about the world, we've already talked about understanding the diverse world that we live in, and also understanding how do we navigate understanding our own faith and understanding how we would like to give to the world, while also understanding how do we respect other cultures, values, and perspectives. So that's very important for us. Even as a faith-based institution, we want to prepare you all to be leaders and to go serve, but we also want you all to understand the world in which you will live and coexist once you are out and beyond the walls of Baylor. So thinking about that is important, and those are things that we really want to encourage our students to understand. About yourself. So for many of you all, college is a very sweet time where you get to develop and get to create some of your own ideas. So it's not necessarily what your parents want anymore. You kind of get to pick your own journey. You get to pick your own adventure. So you get to think about, what is it that I value and what is it that I am most passionate about? And that's what we want to encourage. We want to encourage you to do that because this is a great time. Think of it like an incubator where you get to explore and simulate so many of these things and try out these different opportunities to truly understand yourself in a deeper and more valuable way. And again, going back to college. So whether that be about education, sustainability, engineering, whatever it is, we can all have some type of calling on our lives. We all should have some type of calling on our lives. And if you're not necessarily sure what that calling is, our hope is that we can provide you with opportunities to develop and for you to understand what that calling is before you graduate. So with that in mind, we're going to hear from one of our students. So you all can not necessarily hear from me, but you can also hear from some of the perspective of one of our students that also recently went on a mission trip.
After my freshman year, I decided to go on my first mission trip as a college student. During that trip, I get a call and find out that my father had passed away. After that call, all I could think of was how I was going to get back and how I was going to attend to my family. I decided that I was going to continue, that I was not only going to continue with my studies, but that I was going to continue to serve others. This is the second time I've been in the Dominican Republic serving with MAPS, and it has been my second mission trip since I lost my father. So this trip is in La Romana, Dominican Republic, and we are assisting our mission partner, which is El Buen Samaritano. They mostly focus with working in bateys, which are sugarcane worker towns. These towns are very underserved, and we are here to support our partners by helping the doctors, helping with education relating to hygiene, nutrition. When I was 4, my mother came home with a doctor kit she had purchased at the local resale shop. Immediately, I asked my abuelita and my sister to be my patients. As time went on, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. After a Baylor study abroad trip that I took this past summer, I knew that I wanted to pursue public health instead of medicine. I knew that I wanted to do more with my God-given talents and skill set that I had learned during my time at Baylor. On our first day on the mission trip, we had the privilege to visit a church in a batey. I was definitely not expecting what happened that day. I was able to see God differently. That was the first time that I saw God as a father figure. I knew that it was unfair and maybe unfair that he had taken away my father from me, but I also knew that he still loved me and that we were all loved by the same God. I knew that in order to honor my father's legacy, I needed to continue to serve others just like he served others in the way that he lived his life.
All right, so that was just the experience of one of our students after serving on a mission trip experience. And ultimately, we want you all to find that deeper sense of purpose. So that kind of hits on a lot of the things that I've been talking about throughout this presentation. So there is one thing that you all take away today is thinking about how can I develop my sense of purpose and calling. And with that, we have a variety of ways in which we can do that, and we'd be more than happy to connect you all to some of those opportunities. And just to give you all an example as far as how you can also inform the process, we have also had students that created teams, whether that be from a student organization perspective or soliciting a faculty member to come alongside you to develop a team and a project. So like our pre-vet society, they were really interested in creating an opportunity to go abroad, but to also still connect with animals as they think about that's their interest, that's their calling, as far as being the pre-vet society. So we wanted to create opportunities for that to happen. And we have a great team that's willing to walk alongside you to make those opportunities happen, whether that's on a global or a local perspective. And very similarly, working with some local projects, which we'll be talking about in a moment. So ultimately creating a lasting impact, whether that be your contributions on a team, or whether that's you starting a team, or just thinking about you carrying on a legacy from those that have come before you on serving on a team. We want to make sure that you all feel supported and that you can make these things happen. So when it comes to the process as far as starting a team, serving on a team, or going abroad, we do have a full staff of individuals that are there to help you as far as education and training, and also support from a logistical perspective. So that's figuring out how am I going to book my flight, or what are we going to do here, what's going to be the emergency management process. I'm sure most of the parents are very interested in some of those aspects. So being able to have someone that you can call and contact, and also being able to know that you have individuals that you can rely on that support you in those ways. With that in mind, I want to share another video. It's going to be the last video for today, specifically about our BUV team with the engineering school, which I find pretty valuable because I often feel as though we frequently connect in a sense of like social professions or helping professions when it comes to social work and education and so forth, when it comes to work like this, when it comes to giving back, serving communities and so forth. But sometimes we don't necessarily think about that as much when it comes to things like business or things like engineering. So I find this story pretty valuable about the lasting impact that our college of engineering students have had on the community in Uganda as well.
Well, Baylor had put together a flyer last year that showed basically a picture of our BUV with the students writing it and a little explanation about what our purpose is. Luckily, that flyer landed across the desk of Bill Baker, who has been a supporter of Baylor for a number of years and also has ties and supports Village of Hope, Uganda.
When I originally spoke with Dr. Smith about the BUV project, we initially discussed, well, you know, there was the BUV in Waco.
And when he saw that, he emailed the engineering school pretty quickly and said, hey, I like your vehicle and I want one in Uganda, but I don't want you to build one and send it over.
And so then the conversation, you know, quickly turned to, well, what would it take to, you know, put together a plan to build the BUV? And let's see if the vocational students can build a BUV here with guidance from the U.S. And then Dr. Smith goes, why don't we just go over with the team and we'll work side by side with the students and help them build it.
And that's kind of how it all got started.
So basically we're going to be trying to teach the Village of Hope how to build a BUV in 2 weeks, a little bit less than 2 weeks.
It's very direct. I mean, to take what we know, put it into a vehicle that's not only providing them a vehicle, but providing them with a training experience on how to build that vehicle.
Anytime you can take a design and move it into real-world applications, it's really exciting. One of the big challenges that we had to keep in mind is the ability to design something that can be built with minimal tools and minimal resources that we would have available in Uganda.
So we're sourcing products over there because the whole part of BUV is building with what's locally available. So whatever's in Uganda is what we have to use because that's what they have there.
It's a utility vehicle, so it could be used for all sorts of reasons, like if there's a need for water, for crop movement, all the way to having to move a person that's been injured to a nearby city that has a doctor. I think it'll be a huge resource used in Uganda because there's so much flexibility.
An important aspect of this trip is to interact with the people of Uganda, the students, the children that are there, and they can learn from us, we can learn from them.
When you come here and you get involved, you just love the kids. And everyone who comes and gets involved loves the kids and wants to do things for the kids.
Once you get to know someone's name and a little bit about themselves and their interests, it's very easy to make a connection.
Being able to travel all the way across the world to build a vehicle it's an amazing experience. It teaches you both the culture and also teaches you how the struggles they face in their daily lives.
We're helping people who deserve help. They've been through so much, and if we can help them and empower them to do more with what they have, then that's incredible, and I really want to be a part of that.
I like to say that this program is very good. It will help us and give us knowledge to help those people in the society. I'm so grateful for this, for Baylor University, for their support toward this program. May God bless you so much for what all you're doing, because actually you are investing new knowledge in us, so as we are going to use it for our future.
I like this. So just transitioning a little bit to some of our local opportunities. We spent quite a bit of time talking about our global opportunities. When it comes to our urban mission teams, we do have categories, and we have opportunities and teams that fall into the following 5 categories: our children's ministry and recreation, our education and tutoring teams, elder care and sick ministry, special needs ministry, and our special interest teams. And each of these teams, and I'll show you all here actually, if you are interested in finding out more about specific teams, you can view those on our website to find out exactly when those teams meet. And there is an application process for how you can join a team, and you can also find us on Baylor Connect, which I'll also show you all as a way to get connected and involved. So if you go here, and our website is baylor.edu/missions, and right under the local tab, you'll see our urban mission teams, and under there you'll be able to check out each of the teams, when they typically meet, and what their project is centered around. So whether that be the Blue House team, Cape Ross Kings Club, Kindred Kids Club is a pretty popular one, as well as Mission Waco, Talitha Coon. So I would highly encourage you all to just check out the website and view different teams and ways to get involved. And this is also the current time that the teams will go and work. And for the most part, those times are pretty consistent. If we did need to make any adjustments based off the needs of partners, they'll make those adjustments. But those are pretty much the consistent times for those teams. All right, global missions in the midst of COVID-19. So as we ramp up things and also follow guidelines from a U.S. and international perspective, and our management team at Baylor, we are going to be launching our teams again as far as our local urban mission teams and our global teams. We are continuing to monitor things for our global mission teams, and one of the pieces of conversation and things that have been thrown around is that all team members for global trips will have to get a COVID-19 vaccination or show proof of vaccination. And that's not necessarily just Baylor policy, but also thinking about the aspect of international travel, countries, and requirements for the partners that we're going to be working with. So that's currently where we are now, and the best way to stay up to date as far as what's going to be the news, what are going to be the teams, and so forth, is going to be by joining our e-newsletter list, and I'll have a QR code for you all in just a moment where you can actually sign up for the newsletter, and you'll be able to know as soon as we announce our urban mission team applications, our global mission team, as well as any other updates. in regard to COVID-19 and our global travel and so forth. So now is the time for the questions, and these are some of the most common questions that we typically receive. How much does it cost? As far as experiences on the local level, most of our teams are free, and they often do fundraisers just to provide some resources for some of the supplies and tools they may need, such as like coloring books or things like that for some of the children's ministries. As far as some of our global trips, those can be anywhere from between $200 to $3,000, and we do provide fundraising support for those. And most of that is determined by the location of the trip. We do have a fundraising period where you also can solicit funds from supporters, and those are tax deductible because they do go to the university, so that's a great way to raise some funds. And we also provide some supporting resources as far as marketing and an individual link for you to share on social media or text out to family members, and all of that is tracked specifically to you when it comes to raising funds for some of those trips. Can anyone go on the trip? Absolutely. We have a variety of discipline-specific trips, but you do not have to be a particular major to join any particular team or trip. And we also have some trips that are led by student organizations, but those are also open to students. So specifically some of our pre-med organizations that lead trips, you don't necessarily have to be a part of their organization to apply to join their team. So those are all opportunities. So if you see a team that you're interested in, you're more than welcome to apply. We do have limited capacity on teams. So take some time to put in some effort as far as your applications, because ultimately, if they have to pick people based off of numbers, because we have a capacity limit, your application is going to matter a lot. And we really want folks that are going to contribute to the team in meaningful ways and that are really passionate about the project that the team is going to be doing. Can I use my scholarships to pay? At the current moment, no, because there is not a class tied to these mission experiences. So if you do have some of those scholarships and so forth, that will cover the course side, but these are not academic courses, so you cannot necessarily utilize your scholarships directly toward some of your costs. Although we do have an endowed scholarship, or an endowed fund, for our mission trips, so there are support resources in that regard to offset some of the costs of mission trips. And you also receive an incentive that changes each year, but for serving as a team leader. So you can get up to $500 to $700 for serving as a team leader on the trip. So that's one incentive, and you can also receive a trip discount if you go on more than one trip. So understanding that it's not easy to raise so much money multiple times, also willing to give you some support if you do go on more than one trip as well.
So you said it ranges to like $3,000 and like fundraising and stuff. So like, what if you do fundraising like through Baylor and then like people, you said tax deductible and stuff, but what if you like sell t-shirts or something? Like, could you still do that on top of the fundraising, or is that like not?
Absolutely. So you can fundraise in whatever ways that are possible. And we also share resources such as ways like that to raise money, whether that's selling t-shirts. Some folks have done like food or baked goods or like little trinkets that they've made before that have been really like really valuable as far as just getting traction. And some teams will also gather together to do some group fundraising efforts, like some profit shares at local restaurants. Our BRH choir, they put on a concert, they take donations at the concert, and all of the revenue that they bring in from that concert, they can share across the team. So it's pretty much all hands on deck when it comes to fundraising opportunities. This is one way it's tax deductible, so as far as connecting with folks that are looking for some of those tax benefits, that's one way. Great question. And how do I apply? First step to apply is being able to see when we announce our team, so you can join our e-newsletter, which I'll share with you all via the QR code here in just a moment. And it's going to be on BearQuest, but it's a pretty straightforward application, and you'll see the links on our website. So whenever we announce those teams, you can go on our website and check out those teams and apply through BearQuest, aka Bears Abroad. We have a lot of names for different systems. Any other questions that come to mind beyond these frequently asked questions?
Do you know like approximately how many like global mission trips will be this year?
Right now we're looking at least 30 trip proposals. So we start out with trip proposals, we review those, and then it goes through all of the channels and clearances and so forth. But expecting to have at least 25 teams globally.
Is there usually a cap on how many reports you have?
Yes, and some of that depends on the partner, and some of that depends on the team, because we also have 1 to 2 faculty members that also lead, so there's some, the capacity limits as far as being responsible for folks abroad. So typically, the max is 30. 30 folks on a team. That's a pretty large team. And then the minimum is typically 12. So you need at least 12 members to go. Another good question. And as far as when we typically do trips, they're never during class time, so you don't have to worry about necessarily missing classes. So one aspect or one period is our winter break teams. So that's typically between January 2nd to the first day of classes in the spring. So go home for Christmas, enjoy Christmas, New Year's, come back, and then that's kind of the window for all of our winter teams before our academic classes start back. And typically we would come back straight to Waco and then start classes from there. We also have our spring break team, which is typically the week of spring break. And then some of the longer terms are during our May semester. So those are going to be your 2 to 3 week periods, which typically start right after graduation in May. So since we have graduation, any point on from there, teams can be deployed for up to 2 to 3 weeks. So, and then also gives some opportunity for folks that may have some summer internships or summer job opportunities and so forth to do it kind of as close to May as possible. If there's some leases and things like that people want to work through, try to squeeze it into May and early June as much as possible. So as far as additional opportunities, one aspect is visiting us online. Take you to the Baylor website. On your left side, you can scan this QR code for a chance to win Baylor swag and join our newsletter. So then you can also be informed as soon as we do announce our teams. We'd also give away some cool swag here and there, such as this backpack. It's kind of one example of some of the swag, so feel free to subscribe. And on the right side are going to be, that's a QR code to all of our social media outlets. So feel free to follow us on social media as well. And if you have any questions, I'll be here afterwards as well, and I also have some cards if you want to take my card. If you have any other questions down the line throughout the year, we would love to get you connected and engaged. But other than that, that is all that I have for you all. Again, I will stay here afterwards if you all have any questions, but thank you all so much for coming by.
Thank you.
Thank you, and you all have a great day.